Welcome to English Story Hub. Learn English through fun stories. Improve vocabulary, listening, and speaking skills. Like, subscribe, and keep learning with us. Mysteries of the Unexplained. Part 1. Space is perhaps the most exciting mystery. The last big adventure. Governments have spent millions of pounds mining to discover its secrets. So are the stories of aliens and UFOs true? There have been thousands of reports from ordinary people. But space travelers say that they have also seen UFOs. When Apollo 1L made the first famous landing on the moon on 2 July 1969, the spacemen were not alone. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw a very large mysterious things with bright lights. They are watching us, Armstrong reported. This information was kept secret for years by the US government. But there have been many more reports of UFOs from space travelers and pilots of airplanes. Have UFOs and aliens visited Earth? Many people say that they have seen them. Some people have taken photographs. Here are some of their stories. Mysterious visitors. Socorro, New Mexico, U.S. 1964 policeman Lonnie Mora was driving home when he saw a fire in RHE Hills. Was it a car accident? As he drove nearer, he saw a large, egg-shaped machine about 5 meters long. It had 4 legs and no windows or doors. OT. Why short men were standing by it. Zamora knew they weren't from Earth. The machine suddenly made a loud noise and left the ground. Fire poured from it. It stayed silently in the air for a few minutes. Then it disappeared into the sky. When more policemen arrived, Zamora's face was white with fear. Fleas in the area were burning and the ground looked glass. There were 4 holes in the ground from the 4 legs. UFO experts believe Zamora's story. He was usually a very calm person. There were also other reports of a strange thing of this description in the sky that night. Valieusel, France, 1965. Farmer Maurice Ma.sse saw a very short, strange men in his field. They were standing by a strange-looking machine. When he came closer, they pointed a long stick at him. A light came from it, throwing him to the ground. He couldn't move. After some time he was able to sit up. He saw RHE-hin disappearing into the sky. All the plants on that piece of ground were dead. After this, Mas felt very tired for weeks. When UFO experts asked him questions, they showed him a painting of a UFO. His face went white. "Here, did you see my machine?" he asked. It was a painting of the UFO that policeman Zamora saw RHE year before in New Mexico. The green children in the 1100s, a boy and a girl, were found near the village of /Flowpit in England. They were completely green. They didn't know where they were. They didn't speak the local language and only ate green vegetables. The boy soon died, but the girl began to eat the local food and lost her green color. She learned the language and talked about her life. In her world, all the people were green. One day, the sun became very bright and the air temperature changed. She and her brother fell asleep and then woke up in this new place. The Roswell crash happened many years ago, but it is still one of the most important and famous of the UFO stories. People started to ask questions. Have aliens really landed on Earth? Are governments hiding important information from us? Roswell began the great interest in UFOs. Hundreds of books and famous films like The X-Files have followed. Roswell is a town in the U.S. state of New Mexico. It was just another small, unimportant town until July 1947. A farmer, William Mack Brazel, was checking his fields after a terrible storm and found manned pieces of metal. He thought they were from a plane crash. So he reported the crash to the police. He also took some of the metal for them to look at. The police passed the information to the military. They tested the metal and made a discovery. They couldn't break it or burn it. There was also strange writing on it in a language that no one could understand. They decided that the metal wasn't from Earth. In their opinion, it was from a UFO. The military then reported the UFO crash to the local radio station. People were very interested and visited the crash area. The newspapers quickly printed this exciting story, and soon people everywhere knew about Roswell. But after a few weeks, the military report changed. The metal in the field wasn't from a UFO. It was from a military plane. They immediately closed the crash area, but they continued to take things away. For many years after this, the US government refused to say anything about the crash. In 1994, the military told a news story. The pieces of metal weren't parts of a military plane. They came from special equipment for spying on the Soviet Union. Many people don't believe this story. They think that the government is keeping important information about UFOs from us. There have been many stories about small aliens who were found in the area around the crash in 1947, some alive and some dead. In 1995, the military showed a film from the time of the crash. In the film, there was an examination of the body of a small alien by military doctors. But other people don't believe that this is true. For years, experts have tried to find out what really happened at Roswell. But many important government papers have disappeared, so we will probably never know the true story. In 1961, Batry and Barney Hill were driving from Canada to New Hampshire, in the US, when they saw a light in the sky. It followed them until they stopped. They saw a large, yellow thing. Through a window, they could see strange people inside. Mrs. Hill was frightened, so her husband started driving again. Then they suddenly felt very tired. The Hills woke up an hour later in a different place 56 kilometers away. How did they get there? What happened in the missing hour? Later, they had terrible dreams about aliens, so they told their story to the military. Doctors asked them questions. Slowly, they began to remember what happened. They were taken onto the UFO by aliens. Alien doctors examined them. They also gave them information about the position of different stars. Scientists agreed that this information was correct. LNL 975, Tavis Flalton was working with other men in a forest when they saw a UFO. A green light pulled Tavis up into the UFO. It then disappeared. Till/Hen Tavis was found 5 days later. He couldn't remember anything. He was much thinner, and his arm was cut. In November 1989, a woman phoned the police with a strange report. Aliens were flying with a woman in the sky. Then 2 New York policemen reported the same thing. They saw a woman flying out of a 12th floor window. There were little people flying around her. The aliens took her up into a UFO. The UFO then quickly flew away. The Bermuda Triangle is an area of THC Atlantic Ocean near the coast of Florida, in the US. This area is famous for the disappearance of hundreds of ships' ankle planes. Stories like the one below have given experts some information about this mystery. On December 5, 1945, 5 military planes were flying near the coast of Florida. Suddenly, the pilots didn't know where they were. One of the pilots phoned with these words: "We seem to be lost, everything is wrong, we can't be sure of anything, clear equipment has stopped working, even the ocean doesn't look right." Then the phone went dead. The planes were never seen again. More than 100 ships searched for them, but they were never found. On June 11, 1986, Martin Kaiden was flying in good weather through a clear blue sky. Suddenly, the sky around the plane became very cloudy. Then it changed to bright yellow. It was so bright that Kaiden couldn't see. His equipment went crazy and stopped working. Above the plane, there was a hole and he could see blue sky through it. Below the plane, there was another hole. He could see the ocean, the end of it. Kaiden stayed calm and flew the plane for 4 hours. When he finally got back into blue SL1Y, the plane's equipment immediately started working again. He looked back, but he could only see clear blue sky. Many ships have also disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. People have tried to explain this mystery, but they have different opinions. It is the perfect place for alien activity. The lost array of Atlantis pulls these ships and planes down under the sea. The weather is unusual there. These strange disappearances are ordinary accidents. But if these disappearances are ordinary, why haven't searchers ever found any pieces of the planes and ships? Why does equipment stop working? Why does the sky change color? The Mary Celeste, the chosen ship. One of the strangest mysteries of the sea is the disappearance of the people, or RHE ship, the Mary Celeste. The ship left New York on November 7, 1872. Benjamin Spooner Briggs and his family, and 7 other men, were sailing to Genoa, in Italy. A British ship, the Dei Grazia, also left New York on that day. On December 5th, the Dei Grazia sailed near the Mary Celeste. Was the ship having problems? Some of the men from the Dei Grazia went on the Mary Celeste to find out. They found an empty ship. Food, equipment and clothes were all still there but no people. The men found Briggs's notebook. Nothing strange was written in it, but there was no writing. After November 25th, where was everyone? Why did they leave? Perhaps the other men killed Briggs. Perhaps a sea monster attacked the ship, or there was a terrible storm. But why did the ship look so tidy? People have tried to explain this mystery for over 100 years. Ordinary people. Here are some famous old stories of ordinary people who disappeared. Why did they disappear? Where did they go? No one has been able to answer these questions. David Lang. On September 23, 1880, David Lang, a farmer, disappeared in front of his family and friends. He was walking across a field towards them waving hello. Suddenly, he was gone. The area was searched for months but nothing was found. The family were very frightened. But Mrs. Lang refused to move her family away until her husband was found. 7 months later, while she was playing, their daughter heard her father crying for help. She found a circle of dead grass in the place where he was seen for the last time. She screamed for her mother, and Mrs. Lang ran to her daughter. She saw the circle of dead grass, but she couldn't hear her husband. This frightened her again, and she moved her family to another town. The Vaughan children. In 1906, 3 young children disappeared while they were playing in a field near their home. Searches quickly began, but after 3 days the children were still missing. On the morning of the 4th day, a farm worker found them lying asleep on the ground. The children were clean, and they weren't hungry or frightened, but they didn't remember anything. They were very surprised that everyone was looking for them. They could only remember waking up. For the rest of their lives, the children didn't know what happened to them during those 3 days. The Loch Ness Monster. Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, is probably the most famous lake monster in the world. There are well-known lake monsters in Canada, the US, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and other countries. But Nessie feels like part of the family to many of us because we have known about her for so long. The first description of a monster in Loch Ness, Scotland, was more than 400 years ago. There have been many reports since then. Some of these have been honest mistakes. But sometimes people have lied to make money from the Nessie story. No one has proved that a monster really lives in Loch Ness. But some people have taken good photographs. Experts and ordinary people have watched the lake for years. They are still trying to explain the mystery. Many tourists come each year to try to see the monster. Nessie watchers travel to Scotland to look for her. Since 1930, more than 3,000 people have reported seeing the Loch Ness Monster. The first newspaper story about Nessie was in 1933. Mrs. McKay was driving along the lake when she saw something moving in the water. It was a very large, black animal and it was moving up and down. Her report gave a lot of information. Then, in 1934, Dr. Kenneth Wilson took one of the most famous black and white photographs of Nessie. There wasn't a better photograph until 1977. In that year, Doc Shields took some color photographs of the monster while he was on holiday. Some of these photos were lost or destroyed. This has often happened. People have broken or lost their cameras and sometimes important photographs too. It's part of the mystery. Many scientists agree that there is some kind of living thing in the lake. This thing is very large and has a long neck. But no one has proved yet that a monster lives in Loch Ness. Don't go in the water. You are lying on a beautiful beach, looking at the lovely blue water, but what is under the water, deep down in that terrible black world? Some people feel that sea monsters are the most frightening of all monsters. In Herman Melville's book Moby Dick, a fisherman fought a long, bloody war with a terrible whale. When Steven Spielberg's film Jaws was first shown, people of all ages screamed in cinemas around the world.